all right. So this is the 100th episode of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast. How are y'all doing today?
Excited.
Excellent.
Let's get it going.
That's great. So quick story. I want to share with you guys a quick story from when I was at the DMV, real quick to get us started. So I was at the DMV, right? All right. So this is a while ago, but it just popped up in my head because I was going through some old content and I watched the video and I was like, yo, this story is hilarious. So I'm in the DMV. I'm sitting there minding my business, waiting on my number to be called. And this guy is talking about how he couldn't get no sleep. He's like, man, I couldn't get no sleep, man. I've been having nightmares. And I'm like, nightmares? He's like, yeah, man, I had 8 in a row. And I'm like, 8 nightmares in a row? And the other dude was like, man, what happened to you in the nightmares? It's like, I died in every single last one of them. I said, oh, bruh. You need to.
It's funny you say that because anytime I have a dream, I can actually remember, or like it. That's what's happening. I'm dying, or like somebody's dying in front of me. But so like
it's funny because I had a nightmare last night too, and I woke up because I had sleep paralysis, and my dog was having a nightmare too. Like, I'm not being dramatic. This happened last night.
Sleep paralysis is a bitch, man. I haven't had it in a while, but like that shit is horrifying.
Oh my god, I could never.
Yeah,
fuck this shit.
Y'all better than me. I done had like a handful of nightmares. The only one that's notable, that's recent, is before I went to Miami. I had a dream. I was down in South Beach, coming out of a steakhouse that I wanted to go to, and for some reason I got into it with the cartel and ended up getting shot. And after that point, I didn't go to the steakhouse. Like they wanted to go when we went to Miami. They wanted to go down to South Beach. I did everything I could to avoid it because I had a bad anxiety. I thought I was gonna die. Like it was too soon. It was like 3 days before I went. I was like, too soon. I'm not going.
Oh no, that's funny.
That is funny.
Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I want to introduce the new people that we have on today. So right now, today we have on Mariah. So Mariah, introduce yourself. You know.
I am Mariah. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, and that's pretty much it. I have to say.
All right, cool. All right, so we got my man Larry. What's going on, my guy?
Larry.
What's up? Glad to be here finally. I'm located in Glendale, Arizona, but I'm originally from, ironically, Maryland. So when Smooth said DMV, and I was like, listen to the full details because I don't think he means DC, Maryland. So I'm glad to be here, man.
I live in Maryland. Hey.
Hey. What part?
Up Marlboro.
Street from my elementary.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. All right. And then I also have our special guest of the evening, Dr. DL. How you doing today, sir?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm currently living in Norfolk, Virginia, where I'm a professor of African American history and African American studies.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
Nice. All right. So that's it. Oh well, you didn't want to take your cheat. I was going to ask another question, but never mind. You probably omitted it for a reason. So anyway, so the question of today is the American family salvageable? Okay. So first of all, I have to ask the question: what is the ideal American family mean to you? Like, what is the American family for you? So we'll just go round robin. So Lee, start us off, and then we'll just go around just like we just did.
So from what I remember from like high school textbooks, like history textbooks, the nuclear family being a father, mother, or son and daughter, a family of four, or and like I think that's the biggest picture for most people, right? Like I'm
Mhm.
not sure. That's how I remember it anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, when I hear American Family, I think uh, two parents, two kids, maybe a dog. The white picket fence with the two-story home and the four bedrooms, two baths with the perfect cut lawn, and you're cool with your neighbors. That's what I think of.
Cul-de-sac.
Yeah, and the cul-de-sac, and the two cars, and the two-car garage.
Oh,
Yeah, when I think of the American Family, like the picture that comes to my mind is like the Huxtables, the well-established
Mhm.
parents and the poised children. That's what I think of.
All right, Frankie.
Think about the family that works. Honestly, I don't have a preconceived notion of what people try to make us strive for or what it's supposed to be. Honestly, I just think of the family that works because I guess being all over different parts of the country, the American family is different for each person because each area is different.
Okay.
also
Okay.
true.
Larry, what's good, man?
Hey, hey. So my idea of like the American family is always like pretty much y'all kind of hit the nail on the head with the nuclear family because I'm always thinking like a two-parent household. It could be mother and father majority of the time, child maybe one or two, and a dog. And I definitely thought of a fence too, but it's kind of hard because I grew up in a single-parent household, so I definitely my ideals definitely changed with the quickness because I knew a lot of single-parent households that definitely had either one or two or more kids, but that somehow they still made it work. I had a friend, we're friends to this day. She had seven siblings, including herself.
Man,
Yeah, and it was just all mom holding it down, bro. And all of them are like,
Wow.
yeah. So it used to
Whew.
be the nuclear
oh,
household, but clearly the
heart
nuclear
goes out to
family.
her. Ugh.
Me
Hey,
too.
for
Hmm.
real,
Jeez.
That's different.
so
Lord.
sad.
She gave birth 7 times.
All of them.
That's more than once.
Anyways,
Oh my god.
Dr. DL, what about you?
When I think about the American family, especially by throwing American in front of it, it makes me think about white people. And so that the ideal of the American family is something for white people, by white people, to maintain this idea of, like the other guests talked about, this idea of a nuclear family. But when I think about it from my own perspective, it's going to be extended, it's going to be non traditional, it's going to have a lot of women or femininity in it as leaders and ability to do a whole bunch of other things. But when you throw American in front of it, of course, that means white, right? And so that traditional European understanding of what it means to be, in a family, and so that means cutting off the extended family. So that's what I think of.
Okay. Heather?
Okay. Okay.
I'm gonna have to echo the sentiments of Dr. DL. I agree. I feel like when I hear American family, especially when it comes to the nuclear family, the first thing that comes to mind is gender roles and the traditional history of what families have been and like the American dream,
Hmm.
which is what you going after your career, you settling with somebody and getting married and having children and then just having this perfect cookie cutter household. That's what I think of when I think of and the American family. I cannot wait to demolish what this what the traditional viewpoint of the American family is because I don't agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, okay. For me, when I think of the American family, like I think of obviously what Lee and Shar said, the typical like the nuclear family, like the man, the woman, the two kids, maybe a third. Like they say it's 2.5 kids. I don't know where you get a half a kid from, but all right. And then a dog.
One in the way. I don't know.
Complications.
Yeah.
The first one don't make it all the time.
Oh my God.
That's like a fucked up medical joke.
I was gonna say half in, half out.
Yeah.
Like, I was.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I definitely that's definitely what I think of. I think of the typical family, but I do see it changing. Like, oh, like the landscape has truly changed. So that's why I asked the question, like, is it salvageable? Like, is that ideal family ever gonna make a comeback, or is it ever coming back?
It
Uh,
never was the primary thing. It's an ideal that someone put out there to try to market selling houses in the cul-de-sacs. I mean, because if you go to the farmland
Correct.
of America, that was never it. If you go to places like New York, that was never it. I mean, that's it. That's what it is. Because if you go to New York, you have to go to freaking to Long Island to get anywhere similar to that. In LA, you have to go out to the freaking Valencia. And I think, but if you go a lot of other places, that's never what it was. But I think it was just pretty much saying, hey, it's America, we have space, come buy a house over here, or it's so we can make money.
Agreed.
I think
personally
that
can't.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. You can
Okay,
finish.
okay.
No,
Go ahead, Mariah. Go Mariah first.
I think that we did have the family dynamic. I think we did have the traditional household. I want to say it was like in the 50s and 60s before they started to enforce what I can't get my words out today because I'm gonna finish my sentence. The housing. So like we did have it at one point. It's just, it was dismantled systematically.
Well, I think it was there in certain places, because the thing is, not everybody's in a city where you can get a house like that, and there's a lot of people who worked in agriculture, and that wasn't the household.
Okay.
So okay, Shar, I'm gonna let you go real quick, and then I'm gonna chime in. Go ahead, Shar.
I was going to say, I don't think that I can answer this question in general for everyone, but for me personally, as someone who does not, I grew up traditional, but I'm not a traditional person. So as for me and my tradition, yes, I am going to change that. Oh my gosh,
Tradition.
definition.
Gender role.
Definition. And I do think that in society as a whole, I do see it changing just because we're all moving away from traditional stuff and defining things for ourselves.
Right.
Agreed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so I would say, like, what was my thought? Jesus Christ. Okay, so I would say with that family, like, so you said the dismantling, right? So
Yes.
of like how we were together, whether we were in a home or like a actual home, or we were in an apartment, or whatever our living situation was, there was the man, the woman, and then they were
And the children.
together, but they were together more so out of, I feel like they were together more so out of duty than love. You know what I'm saying?
Obligation.
Mhm.
It was more so an obligation. Like they were doing it to make sure that they got ahead, because that was survival. That was the only way.
Mhm.
And as society changed, and you had things like the welfare system and different things like that came through with government intervention, our family structure changed from that because we no longer needed each other to survive. That's how I
Right.
feel.
We were led to believe that we didn't need each other to survive.
Well,
Yeah.
I think World War II changed that.
Yeah.
I think
Other things changed it.
I think like another part of it too is just like the idea coming from the 50s and whatnot, and like a lot of relationships that were in that kind of world and time. I am like divorce was not as like prominent as it is now. Because like back then you kind of just dealt with things, your spouse went out drinking, came back, another argument, and y'all went to sleep. Like, and back then, couples didn't even sleep in the same bed. They're
Right.
uh,
Right. So I'm not
like,
I'm
Let's
not
not forget
trying
to
to
add.
romanticize it. I'm not trying to romanticize it because that is true. Relationships back then,
yeah,
they were women specifically had to rely on their men because they couldn't work. They didn't have the financial means to live on their own. So I'm not romanticizing it. I'm just simply saying that I
no,
do
no,
think.
yeah. And by no means, like because like I like the way I grew up. My parents divorced. My dad was a single parent. Like traditionally speaking, the woman actually gets the child most of the time too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and my dad ended up with us, so I had like a pretty different experience. Now I will say this because I've had this conversation before on like the topic of whether or not a a family household needs both parents, a
Mm-hmm.
guidance of different perspectives. And like part of me agrees, but another part of it, I kind of look at it and I'm just like, I grew up with just my dad, Ed, and I do notice, certain things that I'm definitely not okay with or that I grew up of it, and I'm just like personality wise, I've definitely developed that other people probably didn't. Like I'm not a very touchy person, and I think that's because like I didn't really have a feminine like kind of like spotlight in my life, for lack of a better word. I didn't have a mother figure to be like giving me hugs and kisses and whatnot. Like my dad was very standoffish. Ish. Now that's like a whole nother topic, but that's part of like the traditional family, a mother and a father, somebody somebody who's strict and prideful and loving and caring.
Yeah, let me
Right.
piggyback off of quite a few things you said. So you were saying that back in the 50s, they kind of had to stay together and there was a lot of drinking going on. Let's not forget there was a lot of cheating going on too. There was a lot of that side chicks, but they didn't call it side chicks back then. So the
Oh,
woman
yes.
so the woman just had to stay, like you said, because they couldn't get jobs.
Smoothies.
They had to be silent about it because where else were they going to go? Fast
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
forwarding
Them
what you just
boats.
said about not thinking that there necessarily needs to be two parents. I personally think that you do need a two parent household, especially well as an African American. There are too
Yeah.
many African American households that are raised in single parent households, and as Black men, the system was set up so that we could have single parent households. So
Mhm.
that's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because dating now, because obviously I want to have the traditional household. Well, not necessarily traditional. I actually want to be in a polyamorous relationship, but that's for another discussion. But um, but with when in dating, because I'm single, because I feel like a lot of us are raised in single parents households primarily with women. I find that some men have a lot of feminine mannerisms.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah,
I know exactly
Mm.
what you're talking about.
yeah. And,
Mm.
and at this point, it's like,
Okay.
what do I do with this? Like, because you don't want to make them feel like they're not accepted. At the same time, there's like a certain level of like bravado and confidence that you want from your man because you want them to lead you. But it's like, how can I follow you if we're gossiping? Like, how can I trust
Why
that
are
you're gonna
you in on
protect
the
me?
tea? Like, hold up. Why are you? Hang on. You're supposed to tell
Right,
me to
Oh
be
my
quiet.
god.
right.
Hang
So it's
on.
just like,
He came in with the t-shirt.
right, fill me up. Like, okay, yeah, it's a struggle.
Okay, so I would go ahead, Doctor. Yeah, I seen you unmuted yourself. Go ahead, man.
Well, a couple of things that are historically inaccurate of what you all are speaking to. And so, one, when we look at divorce rates back in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, you got to remember, well, not to say you remember, but you must know that the United States made it very hard for women to divorce, right?
Mhm.
As a legal means, right? Divorce and having access to that. And so, when you all were speaking earlier about children. So from the 19th century through most of the 20th century, if a woman was divorced by a man, the man got the child, right? It's only the pendulum only swung since the 1970s towards
Mhm.
women getting the child, right? Not only that, especially because we're talking about white people, not African Americans, because African American women always went out the house to work, right? Because of the racism that they're under. And so African Americans did never experience this ideal of suburbia. In fact, redlining made sure African Americans were not in suburbia. And so
Mm.
that ideology surrounding the quote unquote nuclear family and these family ties and values were based and predicated upon the idea that blackness was automatically broken, to then put white people, no matter what their class situation was, into a position to try to mimic an idea that was problematic. Even during enslavement, you have poor white people trying to buy an enslaved African for status, right? And so all of a sudden, and so when you get into the 20th century, and television and automation and all these kind of things, it was unrealistic for most class of white people, but because of the ideas of whiteness and them buying into it. And so that, I think that was circulating this, not only this romanticized, but this televised. When you all were having this conversation about the parents sleeping in separate beds, well, that's the Flintstones, right? That are all these white TV shows you grew up with. That had nothing to do with the reality of how people were, actually sleeping in the house. And marriage is going to be, especially this traditional family idea, is going to be one of those ways to try to control women's sexuality, right? And so, if you was a married woman and you had sex outside of the missionary position, you were a freak, right? Right? Because once again, we're still talking about within white families, right? And so when you all were just speaking to gender, so bringing it up to today, gender is a social construct that does not exist in reality, right? And so because gender is this social construct that does not exist in reality, the idea that characteristics or traits are with inside of a gendered body as this innate thing is, highly problematic. And so the idea that I could be feminine based on some kind of trait, because let me go ahead and say I was raised by a single black mother who was a dictator. So I learned to be a dictator not because I'm a man, but because my mother taught me. And if you are in a grown-up relationship, do you want a dictator or do you want a partner? And so when we, especially as a black Southerner, to date I come from the Deep South, and blackness and Christian belief systems allows for a lot of sexism when we think about the head of household and in our interpretations of the Bible, because men are the ones who are interpreting the Bible. Of course, they're going to tell the stories that then promote them being in power, right? And maintaining sexism and patriarchy, right? And so when they tell these stories, this idea that I'm the head, if I'm the head, she's the goddamn tail. And what do we call the tail? An ass. And so who wants to sign up to being the ass? But women then will then say, I'm going to be the neck. No, the hell you ain't. Because you know what? I could turn my head without ever using my neck. I can use my whole goddamn shoulder to look to my left and to my right. So I don't need my goddamn neck, right? There's a whole bunch of people. So we take on these ideas of gender, right, that are highly problematic, because when we then say what it means to be masculine, and we don't want all that masculinity, because part of my training especially as a black man, and so Mariah is the first African-American woman I know who wants to be in a polyamorous relationship, whether we understand what that means in the first place, but she's the first one who actually said it. Where all of my married friends are in polyamorous relationship, their wives just don't know.
Yeah. So I have something to say.
Right?
I'm
Because
sorry. Are you still
that's what it means to
talking?
be a man, right? That's what it means to be a black man. And because one of my friends told me this when we were like in junior high, because we grew up together. So when we were like in junior high, we was at the barbershop, and this older gentleman asked him about his girlfriend. He didn't have one. And so he then, trying to prove to the people at the barbershop, he was like, I got two. And the older man said, no, son, you only got one girlfriend, and the other one need to understand her goddamn role. And so he took that as a lesson in how to go about being an adult black male. So he got a wife, and everybody else got to understand their goddamn role, right? And so I'll leave it right there, because gender is highly problematic, because if you want to take me as a leader, you also want to take me as a womanizer. You want to take me as belligerent. You want to take me as all these other socially constructed ideas about when it comes to be what it means to be a man. It can't be good. You can't take it in one without taking it in the other.
I think
So
Mariah had a question.
I feel like so we were talking about gender being problematic, but the understanding of masculinity and femininity is an energy that we all possess equally. It's like yin and yang. Like it exists within us, and it's a part. Sorry, the way it's projected and exhibited through us is based off of like the division in our brain, and yeah. So let me make sure I remember this because I'm tired, y'all. But you can, so like masculine energy, it comes from the left brain hemisphere. That's where you have a lot of methodical thinking, structure, building, right? And you can tell that based off of your right hand, right? This is what you write with. This is what you build with, right? But feminine energy comes from your right brain hemisphere. That's where you experience a lot of all your emotions. That's where you have your gathering. That's where you nurture. That's where women mainly exhibit or have. I can't speak. Sorry. That's where women operate from. That is why that section of our brain is larger than men, because that's where we mainly, exist. But again, we both exhibit it. It's within us evenly. So I'm a woman and I have to operate in my masculine energy because I'm in the military. So I have to give order. I have to give structure. That's a part of my everyday life at work. But when I come home and I'm with my guy, I want to be everything, but I want to be feminine. I to serve. I want to cook. I want to clean. I want to make sure you're good. Like I want to be submissive. And it's because of this. This is probably me probably having a dominant kink. I don't know, but this is what I want. And I would think that, the guy that I'm dealing with will want to be masculine, to feel strong, to feel like, he's taking care of whatever needs that I have. But I don't see myself being able to submit and wanting to open myself up to someone that isn't that doesn't come off as strong. That makes sense.
Yes,
I mean, like you're attracted to what you're attracted to, and like we got to remember that like no matter how many statistics or how much history we have like individuality is in everybody, and everything can be so different, like right down to the genetic code. Because whether you have both parents or not, there could be something that neither of them had. Like we can go scientific with it. Like it's just like we got to remember, like it's all a matter of perspective. What she enjoys, somebody might not, and like you just gotta look for that like other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna say that it's more of your kink than it is your gender, right? And so, right?
Exactly.
I did this because part of what you just explained innately makes certain characteristics masculine versus feminine, right? If you're a left-handed person, are you operating in the same ideology that you just talked about, right? So if I was born with a left hand, right, that I'm left-handed, right, that ideology that now all of a sudden this is supposed to be the methodical side, but I'm left-handed, and so
That has nothing to do with it because it's a motor skill set.
Based on her explanation.
No, but that was the explanation that Mariah gave.
If you're left-handed, that means you're working from a right brain hemisphere. Usually people that are left-handed usually are artists, right? They play these are just examples. They play the piano. A lot of artists that draw are left-handed, and that's again the side of the hemisphere of your brain, the right side, is where you experience creativity.
I'm gonna go clap back on that one. Hold on, Char.
Yeah.
There's a lot of artists that are actually right-handed, and there's actually more artists that are right-handed than left-handed. And I know this because I'm left-handed myself, so I look up a lot of stuff about being lefty to learn it like that too. And
it's not to say that everyone is going to be
like, I'm not
like I was saying earlier.
I'm saying that's a preconceived notion that has been disproven.
Okay.
So yes, nothing's ever going to be down to the science completely. But I think
that's what I was saying earlier.
Is that your breakdown saying that if you are left-handed, you're operating from the right brain and you have feminine energy is what you were explaining earlier. So he's asking you to break that down further. Is that correct?
Are you asking me or him?
Okay. Hold on. So, hey, Dr. Dia, did you hear Shar?
No, I thought she was talking to Mariah. So what was the question?
I'm sorry. I'm saying, so you were asking her to explain more because she said that if you are left-handed, you're operating off of feminine energy. So that's what you were basing off of, what you said off of, correct?
Right, because so I do gender studies, right? And so I didn't talk about that in my biography. And so from a gender study standpoint, the idea that we're operating within these characteristics, and that once again we're turning these characteristics into these biological facts, and so by doing this, we're then saying innately leadership is a masculine energy, right? And that nurturing is a feminine energy, right? And so that is going right back to the patriarchal system that we're a part of, that then ascribes gender and say that that women are over emotional, right? That, because Hillary Clinton hadn't had a menstrual cycle and God knows when, but when she ran for presidency, that's one of the first things that was out their mouth, that like when she go on her cycle, she's gonna go crazy and blow up the world. Like, the hell's wrong with you? She's been in menopause for
that
God knows
that
when,
was
and it
wild.
worked,
That
right?
was crazy. Yeah, I remember
That was a little. I remember that.
That's irritating
But
to hear.
what I was saying was femininity and masculinity aren't gender specific. It's an energy. It's an energy. So it can exist within us all equally, like yin and yang. So it doesn't. You don't have to necessarily assign it a gender, but if I know that I operate in a masculine state and I don't want to be that way all the time, then I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to get with a man that has more
I
feminine
understand how you're
traits.
saying, like, it's supposed to be not gender, but by saying masculine and feminine, you're defining it to a gender. And I think so.
Yeah, but feminine and
Because
masculine.
I am a gender, like I am a
I
woman, and I date predominantly men or women.
I'm saying I agree. I see what you're saying, but I'm saying the way you're explaining it, because you're saying I don't want it to be something, but you're inherently putting it to something. So
but I do have to assign it a gender, because this is what I'm talking about.
No, but I think this goes back to, there was a point that Dr. Dale said earlier, that we assigned genders to things. I don't think feminine and masculine ever was gender specific.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go based off the root of the word, it is though, and maybe that's something that needs to be redefined. But I'm saying, and I'm saying, I definitely see what Mariah is saying. I'm just saying I see where the disconnect is.
Yeah. Because I was going to bring that up too.
What she's also explaining is there's nothing wrong with a well-balanced person has one of each. So I studied that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I see what she's saying.
No,
and to a point,
I'm not. This is not towards you. I'm just making this statement on the podcast.
It doesn't have to be negative.
Right. I study feminine and masculine energy also. And doing my own personal work, I discovered I have a lot of masculine energy too. If I have too much masculine energy and I want to attract a masculine mate, I have to work on that part of me to have more feminine energy. That's just what it is.
Right.
Facts. Okay. So with that being said, does anybody have anything else they want to add to that? Anybody?
I actually want to say something about that too.
Okay, go ahead.
I really like the fact that you guys put into perspective about masculine and feminine energy, because the older and older I get, I realize how vital those roles are, especially when it comes to developing. Like, if you're raising a child or something like that, you kind of need a little bit of both. Definitely when it comes to the male and female in the household, because I'm married for 10 years and I understand that. I grew up in the household I grew up in. My stepfather was super hyper masculine. Like, anything that was other than you showing feelings, you better suck it up, keep it pushing. You better not cry because you're a man type thing. That's the household I raised at. My mother was more gentle, get in touch with your feelings, and I didn't realize, like, it's that balance of masculine and feminine energy. Now, granted, when I messed up in school, I'm not gonna lie, mom turned up that masculine energy with the quickness. Like, hey, yo, what the you doing in here? I'm like, okay, I didn't know you do that. So it's it's a definite delicate balance when it comes to that. So excuse me, my headphones keep popping up in and out of my ears, but definitely is very important when it comes to that, because you got to learn, like, sometimes it's good to let your guard down and let some type of help in, or hey, maybe the message that's given to me is supposed to help me, not attack and hinder me. Versus, I definitely understand, Mariah, where you're coming from, when you want to let your guard down, and the minute you do, it almost seems like something can happen that could be considered as a failure. Like, damn it, I let down my defenses, or I let down like, why did I even let this guy even get this part of me? So now I got to build my walls back up, get more strong, get more assertive, and now I got to go to the point where I don't need no damn body. I do this shit myself, which can't really let the guard down no more. So it's kind of feminine energy gets very, very cool. A definite, I want to say a tango to balance it for sure. So I like that.
Yeah,
I
because
was
even
just having that conversation the other day. Woo. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, because I noticed like when I operate mainly at like my masculine energy, I experience like a lot of anxiety, aggression, and like I hate that I'm using like such negative words, but I noticed that I experience like that. But when I'm like operating my femininity, I'm in the house, I'm cooking, I'm just like flowing through life. Everything's flowing through me with ease. I feel less stress. I feel happy, and it's just natural for me to want to be more feminine. But it's not. So I was reading. I don't know if y'all read this book. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. And one of the things that it was saying that like a woman's emotion is supposed to flow, kind of like the sea, and a man is supposed to be like that stability. They're supposed to be like anchored and give direction. So if I'm dealing with a man. And so I find that when I deal with men that have a little bit more feminine energy than what I would say that I need, they're not stable in the emotional realm. I have found myself having to direct the relationship, and that's not the relationship that I want. That's not how I want to live my life.
Okay.
And see,
So
for me,
you
like,
want what comes natural to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and for me, too much masculinity is too much for me, and it makes me angry. So like if I'm dating a man who has too much masculinity, we're gonna argue all the time because then my masculinity is gonna come out and they're gonna bump heads. So yeah, everybody knows what they can't handle. That's why it's good to know what femininity and masculinity is. But you got people like
That's
Kevin
true.
Stevens out here that's abusing the.
Yeah.
We're not gonna go down that road.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a whole another topic in itself.
Okay. So with that, so I think we're kind of into the second topic. So I kind of want to ask you. You were kind of there anyway. We naturally progressed. So I'm just gonna ask the question anyway. So with the current well, I want to offshoot the second question because we got there on our own. So like with the current state of like dating and like relationships wise, right? Like what do you guys see as like the ideal balance? Like to make things actually function and work? Because a lot of stuff just ain't working. Like
In
you just look
regards
at
to
it,
what?
it ain't working.
In regards to like relationship or like a family parental area?
I'm talking about like let's just start with just a relationship in general because the car ain't starting. It's sitting in the driveway. Like
Okay,
they ain't even left.
I mean,
I just asked because like there's a different conversation there
the car
between
just
parents
dies right
and
there.
trying
The
to
sad part
start
is I don't even know how to
figuring
answer
it
this.
out.
That's the sad part.
Let's let Heather
I
go
know.
first.
Y'all are. I have
Yeah,
something.
Heather,
Y'all
I ain't
gonna
heard
I'm
judge
ready
me.
for this. I'm
Let
ready
Heather
for
go
this
first.
one.
Said she
So,
ready.
yeah, I was waiting for the question. So,
yes, ma'am.
for me, honestly, so let me just in a world where on social media, everybody, I have like I don't want to say I have a vendetta, but I feel like sometimes I feel some type of way about people boosting their relationship advice on Twitter and on Instagram and stuff because so many people follow what other people say on social media, but don't have their own like thoughts of what a healthy relationship looks like. It is so important for people to know what is a healthy relationship. Start there. First of all, are you healthy? Are you good to go mentally and emotionally? Are you available for someone else? Do you want to invest yourself into somebody else? Because that's what it is, an investment. You can't just hop in there and be like, yeah, let's Netflix and chill every day. I hate being single these days because I can't tell you how many times I have to explain to a guy that a relationship is way more than just chilling and having sex and going on dates and having a great time. Like, yeah, that's great, but when the shit hits the fan, like, you need to be there. I need to be able to talk to you about what's going on. So to answer your question, as far as balance is concerned, what that looks like for me after going through multiple trials and tribulations. So I've been single for a hot minute, but I was married before. But me and my ex, we just did not know what a healthy relationship looked like. We thought we were just in love and we were just fighting for love and thinking that we were doing the right things, but not even knowing like what the end goal was supposed to look like. And, how are we going to work towards that together? So as long as you have commitment, trust, and if both people are willing to compromise, both people or all people, considering, what you want to do, if all people are intentional and they're clear about what they want and what they don't want, everybody abides by their each other's boundaries and are working towards the same goal, which I don't know if people are, if they want to date to marry or if they want to just date, for a certain amount of time, whatever. I think that that's the balance. But I think it's important that people identify what they really want and what they don't want and be intentional about that and have a healthy relationship. Like, I can't stress enough. I really think it's important for people to know what that is, but most people can't even explore what that looks like until they get out there and just start dating. So,
Okay. There is something that you said during that conversation that made me think of what I think needs to happen. I just think a lot of people need to heal, period. Like, there's a lot of damaged people walking around here, and they're not like doing the self-work to get to the root of why your relationships keep failing, why you keep attracting a certain person, why it didn't work out for you. And so instead, a lot of people are like, after they're hurt, they either A, don't want to date anymore, so it's like, I'm going to be single forever, and they put the wall up like Larry was talking about. Or B, like, they go into the next relationship and they take all their damage with them and they put it all on the next person because they didn't deal with it, and they expect you to be their person to heal them instead of actually going to a counselor. Or maybe you just need to be single for a little bit while you heal. Like, or sometimes it's something deeper than that. Like, I've been single for a hot minute too, but while I've been single, I have discovered that there's certain things about me that I have. And it's not even like, it could be, there's certain triggers that I had that I didn't realize I had that would cause me to shut down and like give up on relationships. And I didn't realize I was doing it because it goes back to the way I was raised, or the way my mother raised me, and then her traumas and her grandmother's traumas. But I had to work on myself to realize that I had all of those issues to deal with it. And now I know that when I get in a relationship again, I'm actually ready. And I'm going to be 100% in it because I'm actually healed, but people aren't taking the time to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, good on you for identifying that you needed to heal and then taking the time to love yourself and work on yourself so that you can get to that point where you're like, okay, I'm good now. Yeah. Now I can pursue somebody else, or now I can let somebody pursue me. I agree with that. A lot of people don't understand. Like, I feel like some people don't know that they're having a trauma response when they're in a relationship, and I'm so glad you said that, because in my last relationship, I also noticed that I definitely had a lot of different trauma responses, and it wasn't until I did go to therapy and identified like the kind of conversations I was having that was triggering me to cause me to like just spaz the fuck out. And then I realized like, okay, I come from a household where my father was abusive. And, I didn't realize I was carrying that weight, like things had, gotten different from my parents and they were able to amend their relationship, but I still carried that weight with me. And then it wasn't until I got into a serious relationship really deep where I was like, oh, wait, I'm still like not okay with what happened. And I spaz out as soon as the guy just, raises their voice. Like, I can't even take that. So then I was like, we might need to work on that, because when you have certain conversations and I'm just getting heated and blowing up when we're not even like halfway through the conversation yet, and it's just like, okay, that's a little unhealthy. So let's work on that. People need to identify that, but you don't. It's one of those things you may not know until you're in it, and it's like, well,
Yeah, I definitely want to chime in. I definitely see like when it comes to terms to the dating scene and social media, Twitter, Instagram, I see the most relationship advice with little photographs with the quotes underneath about what's the most toxic people that have the most softest of quotes. I'm like, that's not even how they run. We're still going to that. So I
That's true.
definitely feel like it's a matter of like it's a balance of like they're scared to like lose all the power that they just gained. It's almost like a power issue. I almost see like
Yeah.
Mhm.
it doesn't want to lose their independence. They might have to rely on somebody, or the man doesn't feel like he's too soft sometimes, or nah, I'm a real nigga. I'm like, nah. It's not even really about that. It definitely comes down to compromise because I definitely had to learn about this a lot. One of the biggest issues when I first started getting married, like in the first years to a couple years down the line, I didn't know how to like ask for help or, hey, get a little more compromising, like, hey, I will do this. Or when it comes to terms of just listening to arguments, period, because I've heard of folks who would get just divorced just off the pure fact of they had an argument, like they didn't want to admit to be wrong, and they're like, I'd rather leave the relationship. I want to protect my peace. Are you protecting your peace, or are you actually listening? You're not listening to the subject at hand because you're not
Hmm.
listening to what's being said, or you're not listening to what the other person has to say because the stuff that you think might be bitchy is the reason why that's one of the critical reasons why the relationship might fall. And I've definitely done that before, 100%. And I had to definitely correct that. And it's almost like a power issue. Like I just got into a discussion with somebody the other day about them being in a relationship and it's very one sided. I'm like, have you talked to the person? Are they willing to work on it or they just push the stuff to the side for another day? Because you can't always push the problems to the side like a bookmark, like, I'll come back to it. Well, you're really not. So
Yeah,
Right.
I definitely
mhm,
Right.
done that before. Like
absolutely.
Agreed.
yeah, and it's kind of wild that you know it's almost like a power issue, or even like I don't even really consider like would you consider that to be like a submissive issue or a compromising issue at that moment? That's the part I'm trying to figure out.
Right.
So
Control
that's
is really what, yeah,
yeah.
that's very true.
Yeah,
Control. A lot of people want to be in
Mm.
control.
yeah.
Mm.
I think I want to kind of jump on Larry, because like he brings up like a big point, like in the realm of like being a man, or I guess I'll individualize it, as myself, I've felt this is like having some level of like emotional intelligence and connection into certain feelings and what it means to be frustrated, upset, disappointed, anxiety. Like I personally deal with like a lot of anxiety. Like I'm medicated for anxiety because I would get it so bad. And I go to therapy, and I've also learned about what like triggers me. I have a big problem with authority and people trying to control me. That seems to be an instant trigger for me.
Me
That
too.
like anybody anybody like wants to like could just get excuse me. Hey, that anybody wants to really want to like talk down to me or like control any given situation or
Right.
direct what I'm trying to do in life. Like I've had situations recently where I've explained my goals to somebody and they've shut me down. And that like, oh no, this isn't gonna work. What are you gonna do for money? Hey, like why can't we be uplifting for each other? And that was very frustrating. Now, in saying that, and learning from therapy and other people's perspectives, I've learned to step back from that feeling of, like sensing his judgment because I also got to think to myself, he probably didn't mean it that way. He was just asking for my backup plan. Things happen. What if
Yeah.
shit hits the fan? What are you going to do?
Yeah.
In that regard, I took a step back from that anger or to realize, oh, okay. He doesn't really know me like that. He doesn't know my past and what I'm capable of. You know, I got yeah, like not everything is worth arguing about, no matter how right you are.
Mhm.
Because, like Larry
True.
said, like you got to protect your peace. You know, like I think men in general will just need to go to like therapy more often because we just are not connected to those feelings and what they mean. Because there's nothing wrong with being angry or upset. It's just how you deal with it and how you vocalize it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But that's all I wanted to say.
Yes.
Um, well, my relationship. So I am single. I was married. I've been divorced for 2 years, and my marriage ended due to infidelity, but also communication issues on both ends. And I have found that I am difficult to communicate with. Depending on the person. But I also found that I actually am able to express myself easier to women. I feel safe. I feel safer having conversations with women. And I also noticed
Agreed.
that I have a couple kinks, y'all. Like, I'm into voyeurism. Like,
I don't even know what that
this
is.
is live.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really don't even know what it is. I'm just nodding my head.
I was like,
okay,
I'm gonna Google it later.
So there's like several layers
I'm
of
looking it up.
voyeurism.
I'll Google it later. I'll Google it later.
Right. Well, I'll explain. So it's several layers of voyeurism. Like some people like to watch their partner engage in activity, sexual
Oh, like
activity.
a cut.
Other women,
Wow.
for me, I like to see my man like flirt with
Okay.
women, or he could kiss a woman. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm not possessive. I'm not
Yeah.
jealous. It does not bother me. I would actually love to be in a polyamorous relationship. I want a girlfriend and a boyfriend. I want us to all be together and like have a family together and like have our finances together and just I would like the best of both worlds.
You sound greedy.
Leave some for the rest of
Not
us.
great.
Jesus Christ.
I want it
I'm
all.
I'm just teasing.
But
I'm just
but
teasing.
you like what you like, and you deserve that. And since you know that, you know you can't date somebody who does not want the same thing as you. And it's good that you identify that you're going to. I think that's another problem with dating today. A lot of people aren't staying up front what their intentions are. So they just go into it and they assume that you're on the same page, and then 3 months into it, they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. So you mean you don't like polyamorous? Wait a minute. So you don't want to stay home and take care of the kids? We're awkward."
Let's do it on the side the entire time.
But
Damn.
it's funny because some people
Right.
believe that they're okay with it until they see.
Yes.
Like, most guys would be like, "Oh yeah, I would love for my girl to have a girlfriend," until your girlfriend is more into the other girl than you, right? Then you get jealous, like, why you cuddle with her more than you cuddle with me? Well, it's like,
You're like, damn,
part
I'm
of
the side
thing.
bitch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I know. I like
I'm
that.
crying.
Oh, no.
Hilarious.
Oh my god, man.
So
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would say.
Wait.
I think that. Huh?
Dr. DL was
RDL, unmuted.
Oh, he lit up. He did his thing.
mhm.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Y'all
bro.
be on it. Y'all be
I wanna
on it.
hear him.
Okay, that's it. Me too.
Well, I want to take it a step back and go on a macro level, right? And so to deal with dating, I think both men and women need to have a sit down and have a conversation about if monogamy can go into the 21st century. There are not enough heterosexual men on the planet for every woman that's heterosexual to have one. It's just not enough. If you take all of them out of jail, women are outnumbering men. Then when we throw in qualities of attraction, social status, and these other kind of things that go into the dating process, it's going to become even less for heterosexual women. And so when you all were talking about this idea of the side chick, and especially within the African American community, I've been labeled a quote unquote good black man, right? And in this quote of being a good black man, my money does not know it has value. I know I have value. And I get to spend it as much as I want and never lose value. So I could, especially since I wasn't a womanizer when I was younger, that reputation now sticks with me. So even if I do a woman dirty dog bad, right? I would still have the label of being a good black man because of my CV, because of my reputation. And so we got to have conversation, because I would have a woman knowing I'm in a relationship that would then say, I'll be your Monday chick. I'd rather have you on Monday than have no man all week long. right?
Ooh.
And so we got to have a conversation, because if we make it into a competition,
That ain't me.
right? But if you make it into a competition, then I'm not telling you that monogamy is not the right way, right? I'm not saying everybody should be polyamorous. I'm saying we got to have the conversation out loud, because that way everyone's on the same page. Because, like I said, what you don't know is women do approach men even when they know they're together.
That's true.
Well, it does happen.
Right, married together, and even in inappropriate relationships, right? And so, like, I have students that would like, give it to me one time, that's all I want, right? And so, yeah, that's a whole
Give
nother
it to me
conversation.
one time.
That ain't what this episode about,
This is some Pornhub shit.
right? And so,
What are you doing, step professor?
well, once again, I got the quality of being a good black man with a level of maturity that is not about, anger and all this other kind of stuff, that is not role model or seen, and especially in my packaging. And so all of a sudden I then become other people's ideal, not idea, but ideal of what it means to be a man. And so we need to have out loud conversations. If monogamy is a thing, then we have to then tell some women that you're going to end up without one, right? And that is fine. And that being fine, that your life is then not defined by being a wife and being a mother in the sense of having a husband and all these other kind of things. But as long as we have these ideas, there's always going to be a line of women for any person that is going to be, any man that's going to be seen as a good man, period. And so we got to have the conversation if monogamy is useful in the 21st century. And then if we decide it is, then we got to make the rules for it, right? If we then decide that it's not, then we need to work into that world. But I don't have the answer on which way we should go. I'm saying we should have the conversation because it's being had. It's just that, especially for women, y'all not being a part of the conversation.
So I was watching something and they were talking about like men aren't being taught how to be monogamous. Like a lot of men when they're younger are praised. They're praised to go out and be with multiple women, right? So when it's time for them to be married and be in a monogamous relationship, they don't know how. And when they get with that one woman, because men are programmed, or people in general are programmed off their memory, right? So I'm with my one chick. If I'm with my one chick, I'm with my wife, and we doing it, but I'm just like, dang, she don't ride me like how Sheila used to ride it, right? So then it's just like, but you expect for right, but you expect for your wife to be able to fulfill you, but you say she would have been able to fulfill you had you not.
That's what I'm finding out.
But she would have fulfilled you had you not have been with so many women in your past. You know what I'm saying? So I personally, that's another reason why I'm interested in being polyamorous.
Hold on.
But
wait. So hold on, real quick. So
I want to add
with that. So wait. So hold on. So with that, all right. So I feel that to a degree, but like that curiosity is always going to be there. Like even if one person was just with one person the entire time, that curiosity is going to literally kill that relationship. Like I've literally seen like, all we've been with is each other, married each other out of high school, then they've been together for like 20 years, and then all of a sudden infidelity. And
that is justified. Not that it's justified.
Not that it's justified. Bruh does it one time, and then it turns into like 50 real quick.
Yeah, but it's not.
It is spiral because he had an unhealthy. He doesn't have a healthy. He never developed a healthy relationship with sex in general. Like all he knew.
But it's not. It's not the curiosity.
Once he got other, huh?
No,
but that's what I'm saying. It's not the curiosity; it's the comparison. Because at this point, you're searching for fulfillment. So again, Sheila used to do this, right? And then you had other women that. So now at this point, you're searching for fulfillment that you used to get from multiple women, and now you expecting for this one woman to fulfill you in all these areas. I'm sorry, what do you have to say?
But hold on.
I'm gonna forget it. I'm saying.
Hold on.
No,
I've been letting y'all rock. Hold on. I've been letting y'all rock. So, but with that said, though, they still gonna hear them stories. They still gonna know them situations. Like, bruh gonna live a life. You know what I'm saying? He got other brothers. You know what I'm saying? They telling him, oh man, last night when I was with Sally, you know what I'm saying? She did this. You know what I'm
But
saying? You know what I'm saying?
that highlights the
But that
problem
goes back to
that
what
Mario.
Dr. Dio said when he said,
Hold on.
if how are we going to teach monogamy? Well, then now you have to move forward. If we're all talking about this and we're all saying, maybe men shouldn't be so
Here's the thing, though.
explorative when they're young, then now we got to raise kids not to be exploring.
Okay,
Like,
let Char go.
Here's my thoughts
Here's the
on it.
thing:
Okay,
we've already been raising kids to be
No,
not explorative.
let
Ryan,
Char
Wait,
go.
hold on.
no, because we definitely
We're
have
gonna-
TV shows like Euphoria. They has dicks
No.
on
I'm
TV.
saying we
Like,
no. What I'm saying is we're already been trying to raise. They already previous generations were trying to raise kids to be. You know what I'm saying? Like you marry her, blah 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 blah, and we see what we got. We got today.
No, they're
It didn't work.
no, because
Isn't-
let Char go
Sorry.
first. Go ahead, Char.
Please.
so I was just having this conversation with some friends, and I think what it comes down to is a lot of men think that they have to get married. They think it's what they're supposed to do. So they end up marrying Sheila, whatever her name is. And Sheila's not a freak in the bed. She don't even do the stuff you want to do in the bed. But instead of having this conversation or picking the one who actually is sexually compatible with him, he ends up marrying her and cheating on her because she never was satisfying him in the first place. So I think that we need to have a conversation of why men are getting married in the first place when they never wanted to get married. They just think they were just doing what they were told to do.
because it's a man's primary core to protect, provide, and profess. Like men need that in their lives. In some cases,
that.
for men, they need purpose. And some men, like my grandfather, got married just to have a woman next to him for sexual pleasure.
Right, but they
even
married
though,
yeah.
yeah, so it was just like he felt like he needed to. He felt like it was at this age. He felt like he had the financial means to be able to be married. He wanted a family, and he also wanted to have the access. He didn't want to be in the streets no more. But those are reasons why men get married. Like, I mean,
that's what I'm saying. They're not getting married for the right decisions. Yeah,
true, but that's the most logical reason. I feel like that's a very logical. It's messed up as it sounds. If you break it down from a logical standpoint, it slightly makes sense. Everybody don't marry for love.
No,
I get
no,
that, but
companionship even like sometimes it's just because people are lonely. That was my dad. My dad's final marriage recently. He dead ass told this woman that like he's just marrying for companionship and taxes. Dead ass. It happened. It happened.
And she said, "Yeah, I'm cool with that." Like,
Yeah.
She's like, me too.
Because like her own personal kink, if we want to add kinks into stuff, is she's a very wealthy woman. So like she enjoys like paying out money to people. Oh, like that's what she gets off on. Like so like I mean like I'm airing out people's business, but like they're so fucking goofy. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, you just like that new TikTok trend, man. They wilding on there, man.
Yeah. I also wanted to go ahead and say too.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, like I also want to go ahead and say, like, do you guys, because I feel this way. Okay, I feel like more people need to explore their sexuality personally.
Absolutely.
Is that I think dating around should be more acceptable for all parties involved, not just men. Like I think women should date around and explore their own sexuality as well, because some women don't even know how to like properly please themselves. Like that sounds fucked up, but it's true.
It's real.
Okay. Wait. So Lee, I got a question. I got a question for you. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about the dudes that don't want their woman to have been around with everybody? Because that's
their personal problem. I don't give a fuck about those dudes.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
It's still a mindset too. I'm just saying. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm just saying, like, that's still a mindset.
Dr. DL he unmuted himself.
Dr.
DL.
Well, I was the way you was framing it, right? You framed it that she was with everybody, whereas the guy was being curious, but she was with everybody, right? And so, but young people talk about bodies, right? And how many bodies that she has on her. When we don't put that into any kind of context for men, and
Right? We don't.
we're taught that women are to be chaste and that they are not sexually aggressive or want sex on their own. And so we go into these relationships like that, thinking that women are not sexual beings themselves, but then at the
Yes.
same time, we want them to then figure out all the different ways to
That's what I'm
make
saying.
me,
That's what I'm saying.
right?
Like, I think
It's,
everybody needs to sow their oats and experience like
well,
different things.
No.
You know,
But that's
that
not what
makes
Dr.
sense.
DL is saying.
right.
What he's saying is, oof,
Wait, let
go
me
ahead.
finish.
Go
So
ahead.
yeah, because it's not about, because it has to begin with self, right? Right, like you can sleep with 100,000 people and never figure out your own sexuality. Even within heterosexuality, you can sleep with a whole bunch of people. Doesn't mean, because sex is 90% mental, 10% physical. So if the 90% is not there, you're not ever gonna make it to orgasm. And that's for both men and women. For men, we get too often to try to make him coming as an orgasm. That's an ejaculation. If you play with it long enough, goddamn it, it's gonna ejaculate. Has nothing to do with orgasming, right? Right. And so even for men, it has to be 90% mental for them to experience orgasm. But we always talk about the orgasm gap for women, but we don't talk about the orgasm gap for men, and we don't even have the conversation. We don't have the language to talk about the orgasm gap. But anyhow, and so it's not about the number of people, but it is about trying to act as if there's going to be a sexual Olympics one day. Right? That there's going to be a sexual Olympics where she's going to get the goddamn gold medal.
Training.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. All you got to do is figure out how to do it with me. And that means, as somebody said earlier, communication. You got to grow the hell up and talk about goddamn sex and what you into. If you want your goddamn fingers, your toes to be tickled while she play with your goddamn head, and that's the thing that makes you right, you need to tell her. Right? I ain't gonna figure that out, right? I'm not gonna figure that combination. I ain't never gonna goddamn figure out, right?
Exactly.
So you need to grow the hell up and have the grown-up conversation about what you are curious about, what you want to experience, and to continue to grow as people in your sexuality together, right? And so it goes down to communication and not the number of people.
100%.
Because every woman get wet the same goddamn way, right? Every woman
yeah,
that's born a woman.
Say.
And so it's not about the curiosity thing. So that's what I got to say.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I also feel like it's important for us because you got some nasty individuals in this chat today. So I just want to say that
talk about yourself, man.
I'm just gonna, you know what? You're right, Byron. You're right.
How dare you point that?
I'm a very sexual person. And all my, like, everybody who knows me knows that. Like, I own that. I don't make it like, 90% of my personality, but at the same time, like, I'm very vocal about what I like and what I don't like, regardless of who I'm talking to. Like, as long as they're pure, they know. So I think it's important for freaks like us to create a safe space for men to explore those kind of things. Like, when we do have those conversations, like you were saying, Dr. DL, like, I think how you phrase and how you word things whenever you even bring the conversation up is so important, because I noticed that in my experience, there are a lot of men that are hyper masculine, and they get a little bit afraid to do things that might seem a little bit like around
pegging.
Yeah.
You talking about pegging. You into pegging, goddammit. That would it sound like.
I mean,
maybe. We going there today?
Oh, wow.
Anything involving a man's ass, they just automatically are just like, I don't know. And like, yeah, and so having that conversation and trying to make it like a safe space where you're not emasculating the man, and then it's the same in other, like, I feel like sometimes men just like, as soon as they feel like you're super sexual, they're like, oh, really? So what about a threesome? Like, they immediately throw that out there. That's the first thing. Yeah. I'm like, damn. So I tell you, I'm sexually open to things.
Yeah,
that I love sex. And your first idea is to throw somebody else into it. Now, for some people, that might be amazing. And I didn't say I never did it, but I'm just saying, like, that's not the first thing I want to, like, you already trying to throw another bitch in? Anyway, so yeah, I just was like, I think it's important that we
choose your cursor. Like,
Right. I was like, how that's a minute? And then like
Yeah,
it's a 3-player game, 4-player game. Like it's just a lot.
Because
So
having a lot of bodies doesn't automatically make you a freak either. That just means you got a lot of bodies. You could have been, you could sleep with 50 people and do the same boring shit with all 50 people. That's all.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Vanilla babies.
It's just missionary with 50 different people.
That sounds like Call of Duty. Like,
I don't know. So like I'm slightly like indifferent with my sexual liberation. And I don't know, maybe y'all can help me understand it. So like right now I'm practicing celibacy. It is not by choice.
Explain.
It's not my choice.
Wait, why is it not my choice?
Well, actually, I can't. So like the black population in San Antonio is only like what 6%, and black men out here don't date black women. Yeah, and I don't date outside my race. So it's, but even then, it could be not by choice. But I do have options, but like I don't want those to be my options because it's like a part of me wants my cheese clap, but the other part of me is just like I'm emotionally unavailable right now, and it's like in order for me because I have like values and shit, I be telling myself like you gotta love these people, like you have to be emotionally invested. However, because I'm emotionally unavailable, if they mess with my emotions, I may commit like homicide, and then y'all can have to bail me out of jail. So it's just like
you could be demisexual though. That's a thing. Demisexual people who can only orgasm with people they are emotionally invested in.
Oh yeah, I have a friend like
that's
that.
Definitely, yeah.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing.
Not that. I'm definitely not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I can't have one night stands. They don't excite me. Yeah.
I'd be researching all kinds of random shit. Like I'm just it's real shit.
Yeah, I can't have one night stands. I don't do it. It's awkward. I'm like, why are you on me?
You're not there. You're mentally not there. And like he said earlier, it's 90% mental and 10% physical. Like
yeah.
So like for you, you're not there.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one because I'm the thing where I literally like I only could be comfortable and sleep with people that I know and I'm comfortable with too. So I am with you on that one. So with me, like I'd rather go back and go to like the old book or something and be like, oh hey, because like I'm comfortable with this person for it to actually mean something too.
I don't do go back.
Me is just.
Well, no, I'm not saying that I do, but I'd rather go back than to meet some random person on the freaking street. That's what I mean. Like,
yeah, but I don't. But I think some people misconstrue what a one night stand is. Like, you could go to a bar and then meet somebody and talk to them for 5 hours. Y'all could talk the whole night away, and then you fuck. Like, now you know this is your
The only prerequisite for a one night stand is literally y'all don't see each other again after sex.
Exactly.
All you gotta do is not see each other again. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. It could be.
I could have gone on the first date and then y'all had sex and then just
with me, I'm saying
y'all had sex and it was just like the personality was cool though.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't know you well enough to sleep with you, so I'm not comfortable, which means I'm not sleeping with you because I'm not. Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah. No one night stands for Frankie. That's okay.
That's fine, bro. Like,
that's why Lee's all dry.
I understand. Yeah.
I think Dr. D muted his mic a couple minutes.
Okay, Dr. D, go ahead, bro.
Oh no, I was just laughing at what y'all was talking about because
you did the shares laughter.
Y'all not really had it like for me to personalize this conversation, so I'm just going.
We not ready. What left for you?
We are acquaintances. Y'all seem to be friends. I'm not sure where I want to be at with this yet. I'm not sure if I'm emotionally available to be there for the rest of the year.
I guess should we move on to the final topic?
Yeah.
This ain't final topic.
Yeah. There's a final part of this conversation about the family and all that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so the final part gets into like, okay, with women being more active in the workplace, right? And women being able to take care of themselves more and being more independent and all that, is there a place, you know what I'm saying, like like how is how is a man supposed to with the way that we're currently raising men, how is he supposed to be fit in with that? You know what I mean? Because the traditional role is the man's supposed to take care of you, but if you're taking care of yourself already, like he's not taught to be a partner, he's taught to provide. And if you're
Right.
already taking care of yourself, what is he supposed to do now? Like, where do we
I
get?
want to
How
jump on that.
do we get
I
the
want
man?
to
How do
jump
we
on
get the
that.
man from provider to being a partner, or
Right.
or
He can still provide.
or do we
Exactly.
do we no
You
no
can
but
still
no
do
Like,
that, but I want
I can
to.
quit right now.
but if you're literally taking care of everything and he's like, oh, can I help you with this? Can I help? It can be
That's
small
not
or
how it
big.
works. That's not
No,
how it works. Though. So look, I might be
no,
single and I might pay for everything, but that's because I'm single.
No.
That does not mean that when I meet a man, I don't want him to come in and take care of me. Like, no, that just means I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a
But
single woman. I gotta pay my
I
shit. I gotta take care of myself. Like, what?
but
I think what he's saying is men don't know where they fit in. If you're already taking care of yourself,
exactly.
how do they
mhm,
fit into your life if you don't need
exactly.
anything from them?
Right.
So like we
Well,
said earlier, men have to have a purpose. They have to feel the purpose of being a provider for you. But
I
that
understand.
I think
But
that's
Emotional
where
support. That's
women
where
women,
I'll be.
but women know how to make you. Well,
make you
women who are in
feel
touch with
like
their
a
femininity,
provider.
they know how to make you feel needed
Right.
and fit in their life. I don't think that has anything to do with money and taking care of bills. I don't.
Sometimes it does, and there's a
Agreed.
lot of women who, since they're able to do
Statistically,
everything on their own, they don't know how to take a step back to let someone be in and make someone feel needed,
Absolutely.
or actually and or
I
also
have
be a
met
partner.
some females
So
like
Absolutely.
that that are
I
very
think that
headed.
question goes both ways. It goes for men and women. How do you go from being independent to being a partner?
Right.
Yeah.
Being
I would like to
interdependent.
answer that. Actually, so in all of my relationships, I've always been the breadwinner. I've always paid. Like I pay for the bills. That was me because I was making most of the money. I'm a woman of practicality and not necessarily like I'm very non-traditional in a lot of different ways. But the
Hi,
whole
Heather. I'm
the
Frankie.
man. Hi, Frankie. But I love you already. Okay, so as far as like when it comes to like a man providing and all that, I literally lived not having that. Like I was married and I did not have my man pay for everything. Like I been through that, so I know what that looks like. So when I became single and stuff, my biggest dilemma was letting the man do that, and like it was very uncomfortable. It was extremely uncomfortable and very hard for me to get used to. And I realized that it was becoming a problem because most Black men definitely want to be the provider, and like that's kind of their role. And then I kept also finding myself in the position like, I don't really need you for anything, so I don't know why you're talking to me. Like I can do this, I got this, and then men are like, oh yeah, I can give you good day, and I'm like, there's like 50 people who are offering me that. So what makes you different from? So I was having an issue. No, but for real though, like I was having an issue because I was like, so, and then that's what I wanted to say earlier about Mariah saying when you mentioned feminine and masculine energy. Sorry to come back to that topic, but basically I just learned that I
Full
needed
circle.
to, yeah, it is full circle because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm having an issue because I'm a go-getter and I'm a bag chaser. Like that's what I do. Like I'm a hustler, but I learned that from my
Yes, ma'am.
father because that's how I was raised. So now I'm like, okay, I'm in a position where I pretty much am the man in the relationship. And well,
She's
yeah,
like, call
it
me
doesn't leave
daddy.
room for him. So it doesn't leave room for him. So I just feel like as far as that's concerned, Byron, I wanted to answer your question as far as that's concerned. Really, it just me knowing that about myself, I feel like I don't think it's a conversation starter. It's not something I would say on the first date per se, but I do think that I feel like it's pretty obvious. Like when men talk to me, they're already like, oh. And then when I talk about my goals and things, they're like, okay, yeah, you're gonna be single for a while, or you don't
Damn.
see the
Look,
purpose
Wow.
of a man, and which I really did not. And that's probably why like I've been single for a minute because like I still am just kind of like, but it's just having the conversation because where he can be needed, like I mean where he can provide in some kind of way, like you were saying, Char, like it doesn't have to be financially, because for me,
Exactly.
I know good and damn well I'm gonna be good on that. I don't ever
Yeah.
need a man for money at all. So, and I mean, I'm not trying to be hyper independent, but it's just like I'm always gonna have myself in a position where the man doesn't have to do that if he doesn't want to. Now, if he wants to, then I think it's important when we were talking about, compromise, like letting
Yeah.
that be done. Like, okay, like if the man
Yeah.
wants to do that, let him do that. And then anywhere else he wants to, serve and be, fulfill his role as your partner, I think that's very important. But that's going to be something that there's not going to be a one all be all for that. It's going to be a personal decision amongst whoever is dating whoever, because it's their preference.
Because listen, I'm tired of taking this trash out. I'm tired of putting this furniture together. I'm tired of pumping my gas. I'm
100%. I don't want to do that either.
I was told I was too independent. And I was like,
me too.
What? So I was very right. I was raised to be self-sufficient. And in the military women, we know how to do shit. Like we just know how to do shit. But I have learned that I do have to ease them into helping me. I'll be like, oh, my trash has been taken out, or I had one point where I didn't necessarily fake a flat tire, but like my check engine light came on and I knew what was wrong with my car. I knew what was wrong with my car. I knew how to fix it before. I knew, but I was like, let me see if he's going to be like, let me just see what he's going to do with it. And right. So I called him. I was like, my check engine light's on. I don't know what's going on with my car. I act like a damsel in distress.
God.
He came running. He was so happy. And I was like, right. He was like, yes, like I could tell, like he felt like a little kid, like a little boy, like pleasing his mother. I was just like,
and this is what I'm talking about right here. This right here is showing them you need them without needing money.
Wow.
Like, right. But the provider part, I'm trying to be like Lori Harvey. I'm trying to be taking out on dates. I want you to vacation me, okay?
Wine and dine.
You do have to submit, and you do have to allow them to provide.
Well, I think it's just, for me, it's a thought, and I maybe because I know my mom. I think Smooth's met my mom. My mom's freaking hyper independent, more so than anything. But. And she has her crap together, and she makes it like she doesn't need my dad, she doesn't need me, she doesn't need whatever like that too. She is, my mom, that's my mom. But it's also it's accepting what my dad does too, because my mom, she makes more money, she's a breadwinner, she does this like that too. So she's like, I got this on lock, and then so now it became a thing where my dad's like, all right, I'm saving everything else. I'm not spending, I'm saving. So then once a year or twice a year, I'm taking you somewhere. So every year they go out to freaking.
That's perfect.
So they go to Italy. They go freaking. They were supposed to go to Spain, but the pandemic happened. They went to the Bahamas. They go on cruises. They go on everything. So I think it's also the intent, because I think even if you have someone that's hyper independent, you if you're willing to, you'll find a way to make it work, to ease in and to say, hey, I know you don't need me. I want you to feel special. And sometimes it's not about the financials. It's like, hey, I'm planning this for you. I'm planning this for you. So I can show you that, I want to be with you. I want to spend time with you. I want to be there for you in a certain way, and let you unwind and let someone take care of you for a little bit, even if it's just for, 23 hours, you're your own person for this 1 hour. I got you.
Yes,
but I feel like Black women have to be hyper independent. Like if you look at all the demographics, right? Asian, white women, Hispanic women, right? And you put Black women on the spectrum, like we have had to live without our men. Like this goes back to we were talking about systematically, like you go back to slavery, like our men were being lynched and they were being taken out of the house because of housing and all that. So like we had to become independent, and in result we had to become hyper independent. But if you look at the other demographics, like white women never had to go without their men. They never had. So they're very submissive. They are taken care of. Asian women are very independent. I'm not trying to be like stereotypical or generalized, but I was watching this video and there was a woman, she has a degree, like she was a lawyer, but she was a stay-at-home wife. And it was just like in the way that she conducted herself, she didn't make herself seem so independent. Although she had the resource, she had the money, she had the access to take care of herself, but because of how she I don't have the right words to I can't even explain what I'm trying to say. No, the way like she presented herself to the guy that she was dating, she made herself seem like oh yeah, like you could take care of me. She's a stay-at-home wife, but even though she could take care of herself, like these are just I can't get my words out. But what I'm saying is but Black women are the most successful, like we are the most successful demographic as far as like education. The most educated, the most money, and so, and
that
then
just
you
made me
say
feel
like,
so good.
Right. But I want to be taken
But
care of. Like I want to be
but
taken care of. Like, I want to be.
no, but that's the thing where you have to allow someone to take care of you as well too, and you also have to vocalize it as well too. Because I know even from dating other people too, because I said I'm attracted because with me, I'm attracted to people who can take care of themselves. Because I know and maybe that's because of my mom, maybe it's because of my family, maybe it's because of what I've seen. No one's getting a free ride off of me. And that's the way it is. And I find if you're able to have yourself together, to me that's extremely sexy.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on that too, Frankie.
But then
like,
but then it's kind of hard when you're all together like that too. And kind of like what Heather said, it's kind of hard for me to get in when you're used to doing X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then sometimes it makes her feel uncomfortable. But that's where we need to work together and vocalize it. But then I sit down and say, hey, I know you're able to do all this. I know you don't need me. I want to do this because I care about you.
Yeah.
What Dr. DL said too, it's we have to have that conversation. To be like to be what's okay. Yeah. But I guess to go back to Smooth's original thing too, like with in the workplace, women being active in the workplace, it's something that it's been happening for a while. And eventually, whether they're forced or not, we're gonna have to we're gonna get used to it. We're gonna get used to it, and we're gonna fix it, because as more women are able to pretty much, take care of themselves and or they're able to speak up and have their voice and saying this is what I need, and they're comfortable with saying, hey, I'm able to do this, but I want to be taken care of in certain ways. It doesn't have to be financially. It doesn't have to be with all the bills, because depending on where you live, like what Heather said, sometimes it's impractical to be like, hey, guess what? Because I live in LA with my salary right now, and especially if we're in two different households, I cannot freaking pay for myself, my two dogs, everything that I need, drive to work. My dogs are important. So a lot of times when we're just getting together, they're more important than you, and then pay for everything for you two at your place as well too, and come up with everything that you need. So that's just not practical. But that's a conversation that we have, and maybe that's part of the reason why I'm attracted to people who have their crap together. Go ahead.
Very well put, Frank. Very well put.
Yeah. Very much so.
So for me, like I can also like get behind that. I do find it like a huge turn off for me. Like going on first dates and like getting to know somebody, because one of my first questions, which I also find like a really good conversation starter, is like, what are your goals? What are you into? What are you doing? What are your hobbies? Like those are the kind of questions I want to ask, because like I feel like I learn a lot from those questions very specifically. Those are my go-tos. And I've found, along with those questions, is that like I get super unattracted. I turn off whenever I hear that they ain't got nothing going on, or they don't think of anything at all, or they don't have a reply. There's no dream job or nothing, and like there's no ambition there. And I can find I've honestly like ended dates early because of that, and like they because like it wasn't like I just left, but it was just like mentally I had checked out.
Checked out, yeah.
Like, thank you.
Because like I was just like I enjoy a bit of competition. I like cheering you on. I like being cheered on myself. I like somebody going after something big and bold and handling things. Like that's what I am. Like the last girl I was dating, like she wanted to be chief of the Air Force, and that is what drew me to her. And like I had already
That's so
started
Tony.
planning the next date because I wanted to learn so much more about that and how she was going to obtain that and what she was going for. Me personally, I had already told her that I didn't want to continue the military life. And she was okay with that, which made me even more attracted to her, that she was supporting my goals already and she had just met me, that and my pursuit of being a PTA. Like that's what I'm here for. That's what I want to be able to do. I want you to be independent. I want you to be handling your shit because I'm handling my shit too. I can't be taking care of somebody else all the time. I got shit going on. Like shit just happens. But I will be there for you for your goals, and when shit hits the fan, I will drop shit to make sure you're doing okay because everybody has those little pitfalls. Oh, sometimes I'm just feeling sad. I don't know why, but I'm just sad. I'm crying a little bit. I'm not feeling myself. But like to have a female there to kind of like cheer me up, just kind of like listen to me vent or something. That feels good. I regularly go to work, make shit happen, but sometimes I'm just trying to chill and relax and just chat shit.
Yeah.
But that's
What do you think, Smooth? Like, do you think that men can find a purpose while dating a woman that's independent?
I am my purpose.
Are you cool?
I don't need you.
I don't need you.
Hold on. We're just gonna switch. Okay, I'm Frankie.
So I think men can find. Oh, sorry.
Wait.
I've been putting my smooth voice.
Right. So I think yes, they can. We can find a place to exist because we're talking like in this space, like our mindsets are kind of the norm in a way. Like the way we've had this conversation, we've talked about it kind of like we're the norm, what we're not. Like people are really out there like struggling with this. Like there's no point of entry for some men are so stonewalled. There's no point of entry for the woman to come in, and there's men that are trying to enter a woman's life, and there's no point of entry for them because she's so independent. And it's about finding that balance for people to actually meet up and start the car, like I was using the example before, because they're meeting up and they're standing outside the car, but they're not going anywhere because once they're fighting over the driver's seat. Honestly, like today's society, majority of people
Great
are fighting over the driver's seat. Nobody wants to be driven anywhere anymore.
I don't think we're the norm. I just think that we're just willing to communicate, which is what we hit on.
Right.
I agree.
But what I'm saying is that I'm trying to like steer this back towards society. Like, what can we do for them? We seem to be able to communicate. We seem to be able to, like, okay.
Tell them to like, comment, and subscribe.
That's a start.
Listen to us.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm screaming. That's hilarious.
Right. That's a start for them, but at the same time,
as a whole for society.
Huh?
I don't know how to answer the question for society as a whole. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm not asking you to come up with a solution for society as a whole. I'm just saying, like, I was just saying, like, I'm not saying we got to do it now. We've already had the conversation. But what I'm saying is, like, steering the conversation towards the norm, what the normalcy, like what the bell curve that in the middle, that is the bell curve, like that 50% of people that are struggling out there, what can we do for them? You know what I'm saying? Because how do we make them intermingle? Because it's not going to work through monogamy, you know what I'm saying? And it's not going to work through the traditional roles that have been set up. You know what I'm saying? We've had to find a way to bring the women back from a little closer back from independency, but yet have the men be accepting enough to let the woman be independent enough to do her own thing as well. Like bringing them back together is the solution, but how to move each party closer without breaking the mold, you know what I'm saying? Without breaking them is something that I'm constantly thinking about. And that's why I had this additional question because
Mind if I chime in on
yeah,
that
go
one?
ahead.
Okay.
Yes,
Hopefully I'm
Dr.
not cutting
L.
you off.
DL.
Dr. L
Wait,
too,
wait,
yeah.
wait, wait. So Larry, and then Dr. DL.
Okay.
Oh, my bad. My
So
my my thing is lagging. Sorry.
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Larry, you good. You're good. You're good.
I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything to say.
Okay. I think the way these roles can work or has worked because my wife is very independent too, and she told me straight up. She told me straight up a long time ago. I was acting up. I was a little bit too masculine. She told me straight up, like, "Hey, yo, look here. You may be in the military. You may be able
Yeah.
to do all these things. I will walk away from you. I will do my own thing. And I've been independent my entire life. Chill out." And I'm like, all right, I understand that. So it definitely falls down to um, independence is really a thing too, but I think it really falls down to I think everybody's hitting on the same key piece. Maybe it's just me, but I definitely find that communication is one of the main major keys I've definitely seen that this type of thing in society can work. If you talk about like,
Yeah.
hey, what works for me, what works for you, the woman may be the mainframe bread maker, but the man can definitely say like, or whoever is like the submissive or just the other piece of the partnership is like, hey, I can take care of all the bills, but if you just make sure like, hey, if something's broken, make sure you call the repairman, or hey, my car has a flat tire, something like that. Can you please make sure like, hey, can you find somebody to
Yeah.
fix something? If you can do it, do it because the things that I know I can't have access to, I know that he or she can do it too, and that's why I definitely see like communicate flaws. And I love the analogy that you used about like nobody wants to get into the driver's seat, somebody wants to be driven because it's like no one wants to give up their position of like I want to say like their level or their plateau of like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
I did this all on my own. Nobody should be taking these reins from me. But I'm like, sometimes you kind of gotta like do that in order for a relationship to function because there's,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When it comes to terms of love or just being in a relationship, you definitely got to have that give and take because I know that there's just some things that I don't have the strength to or the power to, or I just absolutely cannot do it that my
Hmm.
partner can, and vice
Yeah.
versa. I know there's some things that she can't do that I can do. Not to say that you can't do a period, but it's just like okay, it might be more convenient or it might be more beneficial if you can do it. That can help, but the only way it can help is if you communicate that or you express that for sure. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. It might not be everybody's, but I definitely feel like it can work. But it's just like my biggest problem was a lot of people's problem is just opening your mouth and like, hey, can you help me with this? And I struggle with that sometimes. And I know I'm not the only one. That's where therapy comes
Yeah. Definitely struggle with that too. I got Superwoman syndrome. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And so now I'm like, okay, like if I know I could use some help in certain areas, then yeah, and it helps. Like people, it's a natural human desire. And sorry, Dr. Dia, I swear I'm gonna let you speak next. But yeah, like people, it's a natural human desire to want to be needed. Like people like that. People want that, to feel like they're,
Yeah.
like doing something that nobody else can do for you. And I think that's really important. That's an important piece of a relationship to have, like, but you can't know what that is or what that looks like if you don't talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
in.
Dr. DL, go ahead, my man.
So you
Sorry.
all have said a couple of things, and language is really important to me. And I
Hmm.
don't know what it means to be independent, and I surely don't know what it means to be hyper independent, right? Because
Hmm.
of all the things, when I hear independent, I think of adulting, right? As an adult, here come the things that you have to be doing because you're a goddamn adult. And period, right? And so when we throw these adulting into relationships, then and especially when we get into these ideas of gender and all this other kind of stuff, that the thing that I want to stop doing adulting are the things that I can't stand as the adult, right? I don't, so like, so and this might be the reason why I'm single, right? And so when a woman says, "I want you to take out the trash," well, I don't want to be your goddamn trash man, right? Pay somebody for that, right? That ain't what,
Oh,
like, whoever put the last piece of trash in, goddamn it, take it out because
That's
we
what they
both
know.
got hands. Goddamn, take it out,
practicality, right? Yeah.
right? And so, but this is the reason why I'm single, right? And so, I don't want, like, I don't do yard work, period. That's not my thing. Right. And so you want the yard to be edged and all this other kind of stuff. I got asthma. I ain't gonna do it. I'm gonna pay somebody to do it.
No, that's good though.
I'm gonna leave it at mode. It can be good.
He said I got asthma.
Right. I'm not gonna cough up a storm to prove to you that I can cut some goddamn grass. No. Somebody that like doing it, let's go ahead and hire somebody to do it, right?
You be like some 16-year-old down the street. He needs $20. He can handle it.
Right. Well, I guess if you're a homeowner, you won't want somebody to a little bit more.
Fair enough.
Manicure, right?
Yeah. I only learned about that kind of stuff recently. I forget.
So, but my point is like this idea of adulting, especially when we apply it to women, right? How often do we hear a man saying, "I'm independent"?
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my point.
Fair.
That's my point.
Yeah.
They didn't have to say that.
Right. Because
it's expected. It's expected.
Right. Well, I think it's expected of all goddamn adults, right? And so to get back to the question,
you would be surprised.
Ought to be. Right.
Some people are entitled.
No, I know guys who aren't independent at all.
And that's where society goes in, because then all of a sudden the idea that certain adulting events like cooking, doing laundry, doing dishes, doing basic goddamn things.
Right.
Low-key kind of like doing dishes. Not gonna lie.
Well, that's why they invented dishwashers, right? And so, but if that's
I don't even use it.
So when we apply this to, specifically to women, it then saying being the adult that you should be is seen as a negative and a reason for me not to goddamn date you, because you are a fucking adult, right? And you're acting as if you're an adult. And so, so we can have full conversations about roles that we want to be fulfilled in the house, and how we can partner in this household. But the idea that she has to be less than for me to be something is highly problematic.
Very.
Like you said earlier, like gender roles, we tag these titles on things that are unnecessary.
Right.
So when I said I was like, why is me paying all my bills looked at negatively? Like, why is that a big deal I'm an independent actor? Her rate pays her, like, well, I don't understand that what he's saying right now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I didn't catch it earlier, but you were absolutely right. You did say that earlier.
Yeah. Well, and then when we look at financially, right? I'm a professor. I work at a state institution. I can barely take care of my goddamn self. So I clearly am not gonna bring in enough money to take care of a whole nother grown human being that brought her own goddamn bills.
So I was saying earlier, I don't want to have to take care of another person. You grown.
Right. And so this ideal of what all of that is, and I hate to say it, in the history of humans, marrying for love historically is a new concept. And that's the reason why it's fouling up so goddamn much. Historically, it's not, right? Like, and we don't really want to get into pedophilia and all the other kind of stuff, especially when you go back into the Bible and all that. But let's actually deal with this process, because when does a girl become a woman? When she get a menstrual cycle. And so when you find out that when she becomes a woman, she then is being basically sold off historically to some adult man who can take care of her. We've then passed on this idea that is the role. But if we gave up our 13-year-old daughter to a 30-year-old man, what would we call that at this point?
Pedophilia.
Right? And so when you look at the marriage process, even to this day, the father is supposed to give her to the husband. This goes back to when people were nomadic and they wanted their little girl to be taken care of, because when we were nomadic and farming and all this other kind of stuff, we thought, because of sexism, we thought women weren't able to take care of themselves and that they need to be taken care of. And I can't, and then as a father, I don't want to take care of them for the rest of their lives. And then we're going to teach the boys how to go out and be independent. And in this aspect is still within our society. And then we throw in this concept of love on top of that, where because when we historically for thousands of years, the father made the goddamn decision and gave away the daughter to somebody, and that's across all types of cultures. That's African culture, that's European cultures, and that's indigenous cultures in the Americas and in Asia, right? Where you have this patriarchy that went the oldest ism is sexism, right? And so we've taken that in that idea into the 21st century without thought, and we've accepted it as the norm, on that a woman must be taken care of by some man, and that being taken care of comes in economic spaces. It comes in especially physical spaces of like, you know, yard work, mechanics, trash, fighting, or protection, and all this. And so anyhow, so that's what was on my mind, because when we talk about independence, it goes to me as a historian. It makes me think about the past and how do we get to that idea, and how that idea has evolved without changing once it's introduced to these new ideas.
Right. And then just to kind of just to wrap, and then we didn't even really get into, because I don't know, but I'm just gonna assume everyone here is heterosexual. Obviously, we didn't even get into the homosexual side of the conversation, that how their relationship would even work, because we're not experts on that. We're not practicing that, anybody here, just for the record. So everybody, this has been a great episode. I appreciate having all of you guys on here. So we're gonna go round robin the same way we introduce ourselves, and you can give people your socials, what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? If you want to plug your business or your whatever podcast or YouTube, whatever you got going on, like, you can plug yourself, you know what I'm saying? And so Lee, go ahead, man.
Hello, name's Lee. I just work out a lot. If you follow me on Instagram, that's all you're gonna see is a bunch of those videos. For those who do follow me, I've gotten messages in the past. Why do you do all this shit? Because I fucking feel like it. That's why. But
you do.
Yeah, follow me at Instagram. I'd love to see it, and always talk to me. Anybody, I don't care.
All right, and you can find him at y_me_damn_it. All right.
Yes.
Why me? I'm crying.
Accuracy. That's what that is.
Hey, it's Shar here. My social media handle is Free Spirited Shar. I am a very independent woman, so I just registered my own social media agency. Bloop on that. That's the way my mother raised me, to be an independent woman. I always wanted to be a business owner, so I went ahead and did that. So that's what's up with me. Just waiting to get that paperwork back from the state. That's a newest development. You can follow me on Free Spirit.
Congrats.
All right, Mariah.
Well, my Instagram is lve2_. Not doing much, so I just want to say thank you for inviting me. This was extremely fun, and I am so grateful to have been able to meet you all and be able to just be on this platform and sharing information and knowledge and speaking. It was nice.
It was a pleasure to have you. Frankie, what's good?
All right, guys, this is Frankie. You can find me here on the Homeroom with Smooth podcast, and also he just actually put out a new network. It's called the Academy. So go. He's have a plethora of different content over there. So you can catch me on there. I specialize in detention. So when I see something wrong and I just want to talk about it. You can follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at TypeXRose, because in my free time I take a lot of photos. And if you want photos that aren't related to roller coasters, it's at TypeX Media, type.x.media. And that's where I take more of my other portrait, landscape photos and everything.
Awesome. Larry, what's good?
Hey. I really appreciate being on here. I really did. I always wanted to be on here for the fact that I'm finally on the episode. So the two people that you don't see sometimes, if I can't make it to another one's gonna be her or my daughter. So just be wary. My social basically is Austin_ambition 2015. Yeah, mostly you're gonna see, and you're gonna mostly see either workout. I'm working on trying to play the piano because I got a dream to go towards and going back into the
Yay.
drawing. So you're gonna see either memes, music, or me working out and trying to become a boxer. So it's gonna be a lot of things. So all that, or you might see my wife and kids too, because I'm my wife's personal hype man when it comes to terms of her art, and my daughter's just just doing daughter shit. So
Awesome. Dope. Appreciate you
All right.
coming through. Dr. DL, go ahead, my man.
So you can find me, you can on my website is www.dlphd.com. You can also find me at DL_PhD under Twitter and Instagram, although I don't do a lot of social media, right? I got a master's in journalism and maybe not like social media. But I do a podcast called Mama Lesson Number One. My mom passed away in October, and we was going to write a book together called Mama Lesson Number One. And so I decided to turn it into a podcast before I do it as my memoir. And so that's my podcast, Mama Lesson Number One. And you can find me at DL_PhD, although you won't be able to see anything anytime soon, but I'm going to get better at social media.
Good job. Yeah. Sorry about your mom.
Sorry for you.
Thank
I was
you.
gonna say I lost, not to caveat that with this, but I lost my dad like 3 weeks ago, so I'm just like,
wow.
I definitely feel you. Yeah, very rough. Like the pain, indescribable, but it's okay. It's people like y'all that keep me going, so I appreciate y'all. Anyway, let me put in my little plugs. Okay. Where do I even start? So again, my name is Heather. You can follow me on Instagram at Heather_Levita. That's Levita. You can follow me at the same handle on Twitter. Actually, I think it's just Heather Levita. Yeah, it's just Heather. No underscore on that one. You can follow me on Snap at HJohns48. I know, weird. And then I do have a YouTube. It's also called Heather Levita. It's in the works. I don't normally advertise it because it's just like not where I want it to be right now. But I think
Put out content.
I just followed it right now.
And I'm gonna be annoying the whole time.
Yeah, Byron is like my biggest, like, he always pushes me to put out more content, and Larry does too. So thanks, y'all. But yeah, I'm working on that. It's just been I had so many like plans to like hit the road hard and like continue to be consistent in January, but my dad literally passed away on the 4th, and it just threw me off on everything. So it's coming. Y'all see some stuff. I'm trying to like work out a schedule that's gonna work for me, but know that there will be a video this weekend on 5 books that I'm reading to start off the year correctly. So so that'll be coming up. I also am planning on starting a travel blog, like an actual blog that you actually type, and then having some joint YouTube videos with that. And then hopefully, I don't know, I was thinking about doing a business too, but I don't know yet. We'll see. I'm trying not to like burn myself out. So, but yeah, follow me. I'll follow you back. Don't worry.
All right. So look, this has been episode 100 of the Homeroom with Smooth podcast.
Yay!
You can find the Homeroom with Smooth podcast on Homeroom with Smooth on YouTube, or you can find it on Homeroom with Smooth on Twitch. We also have a Facebook page. We got a TikTok. We got a Twitter. Like we're literally everywhere. And then also, as Frankie so eloquently put it, we also have the Academy, and the podcast is going up there as well. I'm playing catch up, so just bear with me. I gotta upload here and there. So just let me figure out my process, because I can't use my computer when I'm uploading, and that makes me sad. Yeah, because it takes a lot. Like once I get to uploading, it just takes everything. But anyway,
get a better computer.
Y'all for I need to get another computer. That's what I need to do, so I can have one for creating content and one for uploading. So anyway, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for being a part of this. Thank y'all, this amazing panel, for staying up with me. It's like we're almost at 2 hours. Thank y'all.
Thank you for listening too, because we're on iTunes.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank y'all for listening. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever.
That's such a big deal. I love that.
All streaming platforms. Yeah.
I'm so proud of you.
All right.
Good job.
We'll catch y'all later. We out as soon as I find it.
Yeah.